How? Show me something that he did spectacular. Show me something that he did outrageous. Show me.
Right,
his power not outrageous.
Okay.
What defense?
You don't think he got defense?
He just jumped back. You never see him slip no punch. You never see him slip no punch. Go look at it. You see him back up from a lot of people. Back up, move around, move around. He don't got no technique. And his offense is the same thing. If you go look at his fights,
so you feel
probably
like
pin him on game, probably title that. Yeah,
hold on, but you feel like it's easy work though. You like,
come on, bro.
Gervonta Davis has mocked Shakur Stevenson after his recent hand injury. Stevenson has been forced to withdraw from his scheduled WBC lightweight title defense against Joe Cordina due to a hand injury requiring immediate surgery, according to a report from Matchroom. The highly anticipated matchup, set for the undercard of Dmitry Bivol versus Artur Beterbiev at the Riyadh season event on October 12th in Saudi Arabia, is now off the table. In the past 2 weeks, Shakur was spotted hitting the mitts with Terrence Crawford. Whether he pushed himself too hard, sitting on his punches in an attempt to impress the boxing star, remains uncertain. Stevenson, feeling the weight of expectations to deliver a more exciting performance ahead of his now canceled bout with Cordina, may have pushed his punches harder than his hands could endure. Stevenson was expected to put on a show in the first bout of his 2-fight deal with Matchroom. Fans eagerly awaited his return to the ring on October 12th, unfazed by the cost of admission. Now, their anticipation has turned to disappointment. He hurt his hand last night after a session of sparring and tore a tendon in his knuckle and had to have immediate surgery, said promoter Eddie Hearn to Matchroom Boxing about Shakur Stevenson's hand injury. Hearn added, "Unfortunately, he's out of the Joe Cordina fight on October 12th and won't return until early 2025. He went straight into surgery, and I'm hoping for a good job in there and back to work as soon as possible. He's very disappointed. Obviously, he was looking forward to fighting in Riyadh season, but he needs to get this done. He can't continue fighting. As I say, a quick operation, and back to business in 2025. Undefeated Stevenson was originally slated to headline the undercard on a $14.99 PPV, facing Cordina, who recently suffered his first loss. However, Matchroom's announcement left it unclear whether Stevenson and Cordina will square off in 2025 after Shakur completes his recovery from surgery. The injury disrupts promoter Eddie Hearn's strategy for Shakur Stevenson, whom he just hailed as the fighter capable of defeating Gervonta Davis in 2025. Shakur added, "I'm definitely disappointed that I won't be able to fight on October 12th. I have been super sharp and feeling great in camp and was planning to put on a show next month against Joe Cordina, but I have to listen to the doctor and have these injuries fixed immediately so that I can come back stronger than ever at the start of 2025. If Hearn proceeds with his plans to pit Shakur against William Zepeda in February and line up Tank Davis for the summer, it would be ideal. This way, he can avoid the hassle of extending his 2-fight deal to secure the bout with Gervonta. Securing the Tank fight as Shakur's second bout under his 2-fight deal would simplify things for Hearn. With that outcome in hand, Hearn could then assess whether Shakur is worth a longer-term commitment or let him move on if Tank Davis dominates the match. If Hearn follows through on pitting Shakur against Zepeda, it could be yet another grueling battle that Stevenson risks losing. Should Shakur emerge victorious in both bouts, he'll become a hot commodity, with Hearn facing stiff competition from promoters eager to secure the rising star. With his stock soaring, Shakur would be a lucrative asset for whichever camp lands his signature. Luckily for the ex-IBF super featherweight champ, his bout with the American is set to be rescheduled for early 2025. Following surgery on his injured hand, the undefeated WBC champion, who boasts a perfect 22-0 record, shared an update on Instagram saying, "God works in mysterious ways through the ups and downs. I'm steady hungry and motivated more than ever. 2025 gonna be my best year yet. Surgery went great. It's a minor setback for a major comeback." Boxing enthusiasts will undoubtedly feel let down by the absence of Stevenson versus Cordina from what was shaping up to be an extraordinary fight card. The event, which was set to be headlined by the thrilling, undisputed light heavyweight clash between Artur Beterbiev and Dmitry Bivol, will now be missing this much anticipated bout. Eddie Hearn, the chairman of Matchroom Boxing and promoter for Shakur Stevenson and Joe Cordina, recently offered his insights on the injury affecting the WBC lightweight champion, after recently signing Stevenson as a client of Matchroom Boxing and calling him a generational talent. Hearn is bound to be disappointed by the news of his recent injury. During a recent interview with Fight Hub TV, Hearn provided an update on his fighter's situation, mentioning that he had spoken to Shakur the previous night. He explained that Shakur had injured his hand during training in Colorado, where he had been sparring. After getting a scan, it was revealed that Shakur had torn the tendon in his knuckle, requiring immediate surgery, which he had undergone that morning. Hearn expressed disappointment on behalf of Shakur, Joe Cordina, and those involved in Riyadh's season, but acknowledged that the situation was unavoidable.
Limited info, really. He spoke to Shakur last night. He damaged his hand in camp. He's been training in Colorado, sparring, and went to get a scan last night, and he's torn the tendon in his knuckle. He had to go for immediate surgery, which he had this morning. He's out of surgery now. Very disappointed, you know, obviously disappointed for himself, and we're disappointed for Shakur and Joe Cordina as well. And for Riyadh's season, but there's nothing you can do. You know, it's quite a unique situation.
Tim Bradley believes that Shakur Stevenson's performance has waned since his transition to lightweight, attributing this decline to undisclosed health issues. Boxing analyst Bradley notes that since moving up to 135 pounds, Shakur has been notably reserved about any injuries he might be facing. This silence, Bradley suggests, could explain Shakur's underwhelming performances against Artem Haratunyan and Edwin de los Santos. In those bouts, Shakur appeared to lack confidence in his chin and seemed apprehensive about taking punches. Bradley keeps tight-lipped about whether his theory on Shakur's injury has been a consistent factor in his career. This reticence is matched by the unremarkable nature of Shakur's bouts against Jeremiah Nakathila, Christopher Diaz, Oscar Valdez, Joed Gonzalez, and Robson Conceição since 2019. If Shakur's careful approach in the ring is a result of injuries from 2019, he might want to consider retiring or dropping down to 126 pounds to alleviate the strain. In recent fights, we haven't seen the best of Shakur. That could be with injuries, and Shakur is the type of fighter who is quiet about his injuries. He don't like to talk too much about them. He keeps it a secret. So maybe he's dealing with something. That's why we haven't seen his best, said commentator Tim Bradley in media reports. Bradley appears to be defending Shakur, yet his justifications only obscure the truth. Shakur has never been a particularly captivating boxer. If he was truly injured, why did he fight with the same amateur style he always has? During the 2016 Olympics, Shakur Stevenson faced defeat at the hands of Robeisy Ramirez, largely due to his habit of dodging and darting around the ring. The judges, unimpressed by his evasive tactics, denied him the win. Overwhelmed by a sense of injustice, Shakur was left in tears, struggling to come to terms with the outcome. As far as dealing with the critics, let them talk. Just keep winning, champ. Keep proving people wrong. If you get the William Zepeda fight, go out and do your thing. Win by all costs. That's it. As far as entertainment value, these fans pay to see you fight. There's a balance you've got to have as a fighter, said Bradley. Amid all the negativity, Shakur Stevenson is basking in the glow of heavyweight champion Anthony Joshua's admiration, who recently crowned him the top boxer in the US at this moment. This endorsement comes as a refreshing boost for Stevenson, especially amid mounting criticism of his style and recent performances. Joshua's praise is particularly noteworthy as he bypassed other prominent names like Gervonta Davis and Terence Crawford in making his choice. Stevenson, celebrated for his impressive technique and finesse, was gratified by the glowing commendation from Joshua. This endorsement from a major boxing luminary further bolstered Stevenson's confidence as he forges ahead in his quest to dominate the ring. During an interview, Joshua lavished Stevenson with accolades, declaring him the finest boxer in the United States at this very moment. When Stevenson came across the comment after it was shared by a boxing page on Twitter, he took the opportunity to respond, expressing his admiration for Joshua in return. He said, "Appreciate that, champ Anthony Joshua. One of the most resilient boxers in the world. I'm rocking with you on the 21st Killer." Joshua is gearing up for a comeback to the boxing ring in just a few days. The former champion will face off against fellow Brit Daniel Dubois in a heavyweight showdown brimming with intensity. In a recent tweet, Stevenson expressed his confidence in Joshua's ability to prevail against Dubois. Despite suffering consecutive losses to Alexander Usyk, Joshua has rebounded impressively, currently riding a 4-fight winning streak. His most recent triumph was a notable win over former UFC heavyweight champ Francis Ngannou. Stevenson, on other hand, has been forced to halt his aspirations of fighting this year owing to his injury. Despite the recent setback, Stevenson is determined to return even stronger next year. After parting ways with Top Rank and signing with Eddie Hearn's Matchroom Boxing, he's poised to experience the stardom that his new promoter has promised for the first time. Typically, fighters have passions beyond the ring. They might unwind with friends, cherish family moments, or explore new corners of the globe. These diversions offer them a break from the intensity of boxing and enrich their lives in different ways. Shakur Stevenson hasn't forgotten his friends and family, but he's more often found in the gym than anywhere else. There's an undeniable allure for the former Olympic silver medalist in the scent of a blood-streaked mat, the sweat-drenched gloves, and the sound of rubber stripping from the heavy bag, elements that captivate him with a magnetic pull. The relentless drive for improvement could be wearing him down. After his fight with Edwin de los Santos, Shakur said that his career has been getting hampered with injuries. He said, "I had a bad performance. I gotta take some breaks. I gotta stop being in the gym all the time. That's how you cause injuries. That's how your body gets a little fatigued. I gotta take a little break and relax a little bit." Perhaps he was right back then, considering his latest injury. On the other hand, promoters Eddie Hearn and Leonard Ellerbe engaged in a heated exchange over the possibility of a blockbuster bout between Gervonta Tank Davis and Shakur Stevenson. Hearn informed Ellerbe that for WBA regular lightweight title holder Tank Davis to truly test his mettle, he needs a genuine challenge from WBC champion Shakur Stevenson. According to Hearn, a bout between the two would not only be thrilling but could also become a monumental showdown. Hearn's urgency to secure a fight between Shakur and Tank Davis is palpable. The British promoter, having inked Shakur to a 2-fight contract with his Matchroom outfit, seems to be using this deal as a strategic maneuver. Some might even call it an escape plan. Given Shakur's performance in his last 2 fights, it's only a matter of time before he faces defeat against a contender. Once that happens, he'll lose his value to Hearn. Ellerbe contended that Shakur stands no chance against Tank, though he acknowledges that their bout is inevitable. He conveyed to Hearn that the Tank versus Shakur clash isn't quite ready to unfold yet. While Ellerbe didn't specify a timeline, it's clear that the fight needs more time to come to fruition. Shakur's current market value isn't high enough for Tank to consider a bout. Promoter Leonard Ellerbe informed the media that Gervonta Davis was planning to fight before the end of 2024, mentioning that they were considering a few opponents. Regarding the potential fight with Shakur Stevenson, Ellerbe stated that while Tank wanted the fight, the timing was crucial. Eddie Hearn then shared his plans for Shakur Stevenson, revealing a 2-fight plan that included Joe Cordina and Zepeda in February, and expressed his belief that a fight between Tank and Shakur would be one of the biggest in the sport. Hearn added that he believed Shakur was talented enough to give Tank a real challenge, expressing enthusiation for the matchup.
Tank will be back before the end of the year. We're looking at a couple guys right now, but he'll be back before the end of the year. As it relates to the Shakur Stevenson fight, Tank wants him. Tank wants him. But it's all about the timing of everything. All about the timing.
I feel that we've got a 2-fight plan with Shakur. Hopefully extends Joe Cordina, Zepeda in February. I think that Tank against Shakur is one of the biggest fights in the sport. I think Tank is so exceptional, it's going to take someone as good as Shakur to give him a real fight. And I love that fight.
Ellerbe responded confidently, asserting that Shakur would not be able to defeat Tank, to which Hearn disagreed, pointing out that Tank often loses rounds and suggesting that Stevenson could be the one to beat him. The conversation escalated as Hearn proposed a bet on the outcome of the fight, which Ellerbe agreed to. Hearn reiterated his belief that Shakur could overcome Tank, while Ellerbe maintained that although Shakur was a very good fighter with a strong team, he could not beat Tank, a statement Hearn continued to dispute. Ellerbe refrained from going into specifics, acknowledging that while Tank Davis had won every fight in the ring, the business side of things was always different. He expressed confidence that Tank would continue on his current path and assured that a matchup between Tank and Shakur Stevenson would eventually happen.
Shakur can't beat Tank.
I disagree.
He beat all the
I disagree.
He can't Tank.
I disagree.
Tank
Tank loses rounds.
Tank decides to do what he wants to in certain fights.
Me and you could have a big bet on that fight.
Most definitely. Most definitely.
I think Shakur's the man to beat him.
Shakur cannot Tank. He's a very good fighter. A lot of respect for him, what he's done in the ring. Got a good team around him, but he can't Tank.
I disagree with you on that.
Can't beat Tank.
Hearn agreed, commenting on Shakur's situation, noting that his enthusiasm had been dampened for some time, likely due to people at Top Rank knowing he was planning to leave at the end of his contract. He highlighted Shakur's success, mentioning the significant turnout for his fight against Artem Haratunyan in Newark, and his status as the highest-rated fighter on ESPN that year. Hearn emphasized that if Shakur continued to build his profile, a fight against a commercial giant like Tank would become one of the great American boxing matches. Ellerbe, however, maintained his stance, acknowledging Shakur's skills but insisting that he still couldn't beat Tank. Hearn responded by suggesting that Tank needed more challenges, given his talent. Ellerbe dismissed this, stating that Tank challenges himself. Hearn, unconvinced, remarked that there was no one currently who could give Tank a real fight.
I don't want to get into those details. I mean, obviously, he's won every fight that he's had in the ring, but the business is always different. You know, we all know what Tank brings to the table. people. Tank, every time he comes out, you get this. You know, so he's going to keep on doing what he's doing. Inevitably, those two will meet in the ring. It will happen. It will definitely happen.
I agree with you. I'll say something about Shakur. His fire has been dampened for a long time by people that knew he was going. Right? He did a big gate in Newark. He was the highest rated fight on ESPN this year. Shakur does big numbers, but they didn't want to tell everyone that he does big numbers. If we keep building him and he comes up against a commercial giant like Tank, Shakur against Tank is one of the great All-American fights and one of the biggest fights in boxing.
Even though both fighters recently competed in the same period and have been actively seeking new challengers, the anticipated showdown remains frustratingly out of reach for fans. Now, with Eddie Hearn's Matchroom, Stevenson has compiled a hit list, and Tank Davis ranks as the third target. When these two unbeaten American lightweight world champions clash, their contrasting styles will be on full display. Davis will aim for another swift knockout, while Stevenson will employ his finesse and agility to outmaneuver his opponent and secure the victory. The bout is too close to call, as Roy Jones Jr. acknowledged in a Fight Hype interview. However, he's confident that a minor tweak from either fighter could turn the tide and lead to a commanding performance. He said, "Boxing's about who fights what style of fight Tank wants to fight. He got one style he can definitely dominate with, one style that would be questionable. Shakur got one style that means he could dominate, one that would be questionable." He further added, "It depends on which style those guys try to fight each other. One does one thing and the other doesn't know how to adjust to it, then he's gonna win. When you got fighters that good, it's all about who got the right game plan and who can make the adjustments." Jones has lauded both fighters in the past, but noted that Stevenson had areas to refine. He confidently predicted that Stevenson would evolve into an exceptional fighter once those improvements were made. In contrast, Jones sees Davis as one of the world's premier pound-for-pound fighters today. The retired multi-weight world champion praised the Baltimore Slugger's blend of power and finesse, calling it a deadly combination. Gervonta Davis and Shakur Stevenson share several striking similarities. Both are undefeated, with Davis boasting a perfect 30-0 record, including 28 knockouts, and Stevenson standing at 22-0 with 10 knockouts. Each holds a lightweight championship, Davis with the WBA and Stevenson with the WBC. However, Kenny Ellis, who trains Davis with Calvin Ford, suggests that Davis and Stevenson won't necessarily be evenly matched when they step into the ring. He said, "They can't be 50-50 if Tank can punch and Shakur can't punch. They both can box. They both got a great IQ. Let's say Tank is behind and he got to get himself out of trouble, and that motherfucker's hammer is going to get him out of trouble. Now let's say Shakur is behind and he got to get himself out of trouble. How are he going to get himself out of trouble? He don't have no hammer. So they're not 50-50. They can't be 50-50. Davis possesses the knack for delivering sudden, decisive blows that can take his opponents by surprise. This capability means he doesn't have to launch into a frenetic assault right from the start. He said, he don't want to get reckless, but if he goes into the ring against Shakur, and Shakur don't got no power from the jump, what do you think that will do? Ellis believes Stevenson is receiving more praise than he merits, insisting that there's simply no comparison between them, neither on paper nor on fight night. Ellis said, Tank is faster than Shakur. So all that stuff about Shakur being fast, Tank is faster. Tank is faster. He's bigger. He's stronger. He's smarter. He ain't got nothing on Tank. If it goes 12 rounds, I'm walking away from boxing. I don't see what the hype is. Everybody Shakur fought, and I mean everybody. For him to be so elite, they touched him. They just didn't have what it takes to get him out of there. No disrespect to Shakur. I'm just speaking facts. It's truly a pity that the only way Stevenson and Tank seem to engage with each other is through social media. Both recently exchanged threats about a potential fight, but it looks like they couldn't finalize a deal. This is unfortunate because, apart from the unification aspect, these two fighters are among the best in the division. Beyond this, their showdown could reveal much about each fighter. How will Tank fare against a top-tier slick boxer in his prime? Will Stevenson stand his ground and show grit against Davis? And after the bout, will the victor be hailed as the undisputed champion by the fans? Though it hasn't been long since Gervonta Davis's last bout, the boxing world is already abuzz with anticipation for what Tank will do next. His recent show-stopping knockout of Frank Martin has once again cemented his status as arguably the most formidable fighter on the planet. This would typically make it challenging to find him a willing opponent. Nevertheless, Shakur Stevenson remains adamant that he's fully prepared to negotiate and secure the potential mega fight. However, numerous obstacles still need to be overcome, potentially opening the door for others to step into the ring. The VP of Communications at Hearn Sports, which heads Davis's promotion company PBC, suggests that Isaac Cruz might face Davis in a rematch later this year. He revealed, "I think Tank's date is November. I guess that's a possibility if Pitbull comes through his fight unscathed. The timing works out. I would like to see him in a rematch. I would really like to see him and Pitbull go at it again, with Tank not having a hand injury or anything like that. I thought it was one of his toughest fights, just to see how that would be with him at full strength." Tim Smith, in his conversation with Kurt Emhoff from The Ring magazine, acknowledged that Cruz delivered probably one of his toughest fights against Davis. However, he attributed this challenge mainly to a hand injury. Since his 2021 fight, Cruz has won all 4 of his matches, 3 of them by stoppage. He's now competing in the super lightweight division, where he'll defend his WBA belt against Jose Valenzuela this Saturday. Tank Davis has put every opponent he's faced on the canvas except for 2, frequently allowing himself to lose early rounds just to close the gap and strike decisively when the moment is right. Stevenson isn't one to squander rounds. He takes pride in securing victories with ease, often avoiding significant retaliation. CompuBox data reveals that his opponents connect with him a mere 5.3 times per round on average. Davis boasts the WBA lightweight world title, while Stevenson commands the WBC version, which amplifies the excitement of this unification clash. When Stevenson parted ways with Top Rank after an extended promotional stint, it seemed like nothing could stand in the way of making this high-stakes showdown a reality. Although Stevenson hasn't revealed his upcoming business plans, he's recently been spotted with Turki Alalshik of Riyadh Season, who is rapidly emerging as a key figure in the sports world. It's quite possible that his next venture will involve one of Alalshik's events. In a recent interview with Mill City Boxing, Tank's co-trainer Kenny Ellis revealed that partnering with the Saudi Arabian figure diminishes the chances of the fight taking place. He said, "For Shakur, Turki Alalshik is more like protective custody, because Shakur don't need him to make that fight, and if he do go with him, he not gonna fight Tank. So it's like PBC for real, you know? My opinion." Despite Alalshik's eagerness to collaborate with Tank, Ellis remained tight-lipped about the reasons behind the fight's cancellation, offering no further details. He said, "I don't want to go all into it. That's just a way out, man. I wish Shakur the best with his next move. If he should fight Tank next year or this year, whenever they fight, I hope he's undefeated still. Keep the value of the fight. I believe we would still fight him if he loses, but is it still the same?" The debate over whether Gervonta Davis or Shakur Stevenson holds the upper hand continues to heat up. Recently, Olympic bronze medalist and former interim IBF super middleweight champion Andre Durrell weighed in, claiming it may be premature for Stevenson to face off against Tank Davis. During an interview with Fight Hub TV, alongside Andre Ward and Andre Berto, Durrell issued a cautionary note to Stevenson. Despite Stevenson calling out Tank on several occasions, Durrell felt it's too soon for Shakur. While he thinks the potential fight between Shakur and Davis is pretty neck-to-neck, he couldn't help but give Davis a 10% edge over Shakur because of the power Davis has displayed in his previous fights. However, this doesn't mean the Resurrected wasn't intrigued by the matchup. As he said, "I want to see how he deals with it if he has to be there." Durrell expanded on his thoughts, expressing a keen interest in observing how Stevenson handles the challenge of being repeatedly struck by Davis's fierce punches throughout the bout. Regardless, until he sees that, Durrell's opinion of Shakur Stevenson isn't favorable. Durrell said, "I don't think he stands up to it, man. I think he takes the first few blows, but if he gets caught clean too much, man, I see Tank ending it." It's also notable that Davis was eyeing a match against Vasyl Lomachenko, but the bout never materialized. Lomachenko opted to prioritize family time instead. Although Davis's next opponent is unknown, one former world champion believes he knows exactly who will prevail when the Stevenson fight takes place. Former unified lightweight champion George Kambosos Jr. and Shakur Stevenson recently clashed in a fiery social media showdown. The two traded barbs aggressively, with Kambosos confidently asserting that Davis would dominate Stevenson in their eventual bout. To up the ante, Kambosos is even willing to wager millions on his prediction. Kambosos Jr. wrote, "$1 million, he knocks him his buck teeth out cold. Won't happen though Shakur just talks? Maybe if it's 5-on-1, like his little street fight." He's not only confident that Davis would best Stevenson, but he also believes Teofimo Lopez, Devin Haney, and Vasyl Lomachenko would similarly prevail over Stevenson. Make sure to check out some of our other videos on the screen if you enjoyed this one.